Marvel Cinematic Universe, only 3 individuals we're currently aware of have wielded the Infinity Stones. Those would be Thanos, Tony Stark, and the Incredible Hulk himself, Bruce Banner. We already know what Thanos saw when he used the stones, and we have a whole video devoted to what Tony saw when he used the stones, but what about Bruce Banner? What exactly did he see when he snapped his big green sausage fingers? We got a few theories we want to run by you, so let's take a look. Poor Bruce Banner. Ever since he was blasted by gamma radiation and turned into a, as Tony Stark would call it, a giant green rage monster, his life has been a complete mess. It's bad enough that he's only one of the brightest minds of his time and only sought to help society. That plan backfired in the worst possible way. It's kind of like if you said, hey, I'm gonna go help this lady cross the street. She's old, and that's my good deed for the day. Hey. Only then, not only does the old lady get hit by a car, it turns out that she was carrying a highly flammable device that explodes and takes out the entire city block. Too dramatic? Maybe. But we're trying to paint a picture here, so just go with it. Bruce Banner has had a truly fascinating arc over the course of Marvel's Cinematic Universe. He's only gotten one solo entry, The Incredible Hulk, and we're not counting Ang Lee's 2003 film Hulk because 1, it's not part of the MCU, and 2, it ain't good. Between all the crazy split screens and dull philosophizing, it's one of the more bizarre comic book movies ever made. But hey, there is a scene where Hulk fights a giant mutant poodle. Part of the reason the Hulk hasn't gotten more solo movies is because of Universal Studios. They own the rights to the Hulk films. And because they don't want to play nice with Marvel, there currently aren't any plans for a solo Hulk entry. It worked out okay though. Despite not having his own movies, the Hulk ended up getting a pretty solid character arc divvied out amongst multiple MCU entries. While 2008's The Incredible Hulk essentially functioned as a standalone entry, it did introduce this rebooted Hulk to movie-going audiences. It showed us a Bruce Banner on the run, attempting to find a cure for his terrible rage-fueled affliction. It concluded with a hint that maybe he had more control over the Hulk than he initially thought. Joss Whedon practically scrapped everything set up in The Incredible Hulk when he did a soft reboot of the character in his first Avengers film. The main ideas he explored were Bruce Banner being on the run, doing what he could to help poor people in third world countries. The other thing Whedon ran with was the idea that Banner had some level of control over the Hulk. It wasn't enough of a handle that he could stop turning into the Hulk when overwhelmed with rage or pain, but still it was enough that we could get that totally awesome "I'm always angry" moment in the first Avengers. Banner's journey continued in Avengers Age of Ultron, emphasizing the disconnect he feels from the other members of his avenging squad. A new lullaby he developed, implemented by none other than Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, allows for a little more semblance of control over the Hulk. Still, when Scarlet Witch takes hold with her pesky mind control abilities, the Hulk goes on a rampage that puts innocent lives in danger. It's then that Banner realizes that people will never accept the Hulk. He's a monster, and no matter what he does to change that, he always will be. This is also the start of his romantic involvement with Black Widow. Fans are still split over whether or not this was a smart move, but if we're going to play devil's advocate, we can see what Whedon was going for here. Both Black Widow and Banner feel estranged from the rest of the group, he being a rage monster and she being an ex-criminal assassin. Their plan to run away together might have been misguided, but in some small way it kinda makes sense. The problem is that when she betrays him at the end of Age of Ultron, it creates a rift between them that's never repaired. We don't see poor Brucey again until Thor Ragnarok, and he's a completely different beast altogether. Now he's in the Hulk form full time. In fact, he's been that way for almost 2 years before Thor snaps Banner out of it and helps him revert to human form. By this point, Banner is a total mess. He's confused, he's scared, and he doesn't know how to handle his monstrous counterpart. It's clear now that the Hulk isn't just a more rage-focused version of Banner's own psyche. The Hulk is actually his own individual with his own set of desires and dreams. Random aside, can the Hulk actually have dreams and aspirations? I mean, what would that even look like? Just his own personal city with lots of stuff to destroy? By Thor Ragnarok's conclusion, Banner has a new confidence in his abilities and is able to help save the day. But by Avengers Infinity War, his relationship with the Hulk is all screwy again. After getting his butt handed to him by Thanos at the film's start, the Hulk is reluctant to return. The Russos stated in multiple interviews that the Hulk was tired of being pushed around by Banner, only being allowed to show his face when he's needed. By the time Avengers Endgame rolled around, we learned that Bruce and the Hulk had finally found their peace with one another, resulting in the new iteration of the character, Professor Hulk. He's adorable with his little glasses and his V-neck and sweater. We wanted to go through the Hulk's character arc to provide some context for his journey up to the point he uses the Infinity Stones to bring back 50% of the universe's population. Understanding Bruce Banner's journey may help us Thanos figure out what he might have seen when he used the stones. How do we know he saw something, you ask? Well, look at what's happened when other individuals have used the gauntlet. First and foremost, we have Thanos. When he finally managed to obtain all the Infinity Stones in Avengers Infinity War, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He snapped his digits and dusted 50% of the universe's population. Once that happened, Thanos was transported to a surreal, mystical location. Turns out this was the Soul World, which is a pocket dimension contained within the Soul Stone. The Russo brothers confirmed as much in the commentary included on the Avengers Infinity War Blu-ray. The Soul World was established in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline in the comics as a place where those individuals killed by the Soul Stone end up. They're not actually dead, just imprisoned. Thanos ends up there and sees Gamora as a child, the way she was when he first met her. They have a brief conversation in which she questions the cost of his mission's success, and then he returns to the land of the living. If you watched our video here on ScreenRant entitled What Tony Saw When He Used the Infinity Stones in Endgame, you'll know that something similar was planned as a scene following Tony snapping his fingers. Wait, you haven't watched that video yet? Aren't you subscribed to ScreenRant's YouTube channel? Go on and get on that. Click that bell, you know the whole thing. This way you won't miss our videos. And you'll be in the know on these kinds of things. Okay, if you don't have the time to watch, we'll briefly summarize what happened in that video. Basically, when Tony Stark snagged all of the Infinity Stones from Thanos and snapped his fingers, he managed to wipe out Thanos and his army. Originally, the Russo brothers intended to show that Tony did in fact make his way to the Soul World following this moment. And what does Tony see in the Soul World? Just like Thanos, he ends up seeing his daughter Morgan. Only she's all grown up now, portrayed by 13 Reasons Why star Catherine Langford. During this scene, Morgan offers Tony some semblance of solace. She forgives him for his sacrifice and reassures him that she'll be okay. It puts Tony at ease, allowing him to pass on in peace. In reference to this scene, Joe Russo stated, "The idea felt resonant, but it was just too many ideas in an overly complicated movie. When Avengers Endgame was screened for test audiences, the filmmakers discovered that audience members didn't necessarily respond emotionally to this scene. They didn't have the connection to the grown-up Morgan necessary to make the moment resonate. As a result, this scene was cut. But fear not, true believers! Rumor has it that this scene will be appearing on the deleted scenes portion of the Avengers Endgame Blu-ray, so don't you dare fret." All of this brings us to Mr. Bruce Banner himself, the only other individual in this universe so far to use all the stones. So what exactly did he see? He wouldn't have been able to join the What Thanos and Tony Saw club because Banner doesn't have a daughter, but we do have an inkling who he might have had a conversation with, and we're willing to bet that you do too. Let's all say it on the count of 3 now. 1, 2, 3. Black Widow. I mean, it makes sense, right? Remember that moment near the end of Avengers Endgame where Banner mentions he really tried to bring her back to life? Here's what we're thinking might have happened. After he snapped his fingers, Banner was transported to the Soul World where he found Natasha waiting for him. They play a little bit of catch-up where Banner informs her that the Avengers have saved the day once again. He tells her that her sacrifice wasn't in vain, which of course she knows it wasn't. She always believed they'd be able to save the day because they're the Avengers and they're just freaking sweet. Avenging people's exactly what they do, especially when the person being avenged is one of their own. Chances are the two of them have a little heart-to-heart where they address their failed romance from the past. Maybe some apologies are shared and some tears shed, because that's what always happens in these kinds of scenes. Once all this is done, Banner tries to convince her to return to the world of the living. She tells him that she can't. It's not how the Soul Stone works, but she reassures him that she'll be okay. That she's proud to have sacrificed herself for such a worthy cause, and he should feel at peace about moving on and letting her go. Despite being heartbroken, Banner is finally able to do just that. This seems like the most likely scenario, but we're going to go out on a limb and suggest one more. Remember Betty Ross, Bruce Banner's original love interest? What happened to her? Why don't we ever see her in the other MCU entries? Maybe it's because Liv Tyler is way too fancy and wanted more money than Marvel Studios was willing to dish out. But what if Betty ended up getting killed off screen? Maybe, just maybe, Bruce doesn't only see Natasha. He sees Betty as well. Talk about a great way to bring full closure to his personal journey. Of course, this would only work if Betty had been killed by the Soul Stone, which she definitely wasn't. But come on, people, just go with us here. Finally, we'd like to make one more suggestion as to what the Hulk saw when he used the Infinity Stones. Maybe he was able to see a glorious alternate reality. In this reality, Universal's finally decided to play nice, and the Hulk's allowed to have numerous solo films of his own. Isn't that, after all, what the character deserves? Alrighty, true believers, we want to hear your thoughts. Do you think we're on point with our theory about what the Hulk saw when he snapped his fingers? Do you too dream of a world where the Hulk might get another solo movie? Let us know in the comments section below, and make sure you're subscribed to ScreenRant's channel. That way you'll know all about the tons of great Marvel content we're sending out on a regular basis.